I'm Millie Weaver, and you're watching the Millennial Millie show. Well, I think America is getting a first-hand idea or perspective into the Biden family's wild, crazy lives after recently leaked iCloud files from Hunter Biden's iPhone and his Mac devices was leaked today on 4chan, exposing the underbelly of the Biden crime family. Well, if we don't understand by now why the country is in the mess that it is in right now, I think people will after they've seen these leaked files. Because if Joe Biden can't even parent his only son, then how is he supposed to run a country, a nation? Joe Biden has let his son become an utter mess, a drug-addicted mess. And this country right now is falling to pieces. So is it any wonder why we are in the situation we're in this country? So these leaked files have been circulating now on social media. And of course, social media sites have been trying to take some of them down. Obviously, some of them are more graphic than others. I am going to be showing you guys some of these clips from the Hunter Biden leak. However, viewer discretion is still advised because the clips I'm going to show still are pretty bad, although they are not the worst clips out there because some of it is just too crazy to show for this show right now. So I advise you to do your due diligence and go look into this if you want to look into it further. So in some of these video clips, you literally see Hunter Biden weighing his crack rocks, engaging in a lot of nude acts. I mean, the guy's some kind of a weird nudist where he likes to videotape himself a lot, and his engagements with these other women who appear to be prostitutes. He has messages where he's conversating with other people about the sale of women. I mean, it's pretty bad. And we're not even fully going into the creepy relationship between Joe Biden and one of his minor family members that really should be under investigation. You know, it really begs the question when the Hunter Biden laptop has literally been in circulation for quite some time now. We're going on a couple years, and we've not seen the Justice Department do anything, the FBI do anything about it, considering that it is literally full of criminal acts and evidence of criminal acts. It really just illustrates the unequal protection of the law and how some people or some political elites in this country are just immune. They don't get prosecuted. Anyone that tries to go after them ends up on some, body count list or something, just like with Hillary Clinton. It seems like she could commit any crimes possible, and she always walked away, no matter what. And it seems to be that this is the precedent that's being set in the nation right now, that there are those who are above the law. So let's go ahead to this clip of Hunter Biden all over the internet engaging in illegal activities. The president's son, mind you. Could you imagine if there was any video evidence of one of President Donald Trump's children engaging in this behavior? They would have already been arrested. Okay, there would be tons of criminal investigations filed. You would have a whole lot of craziness going on. It would be on every mainstream media outlet right now. But because this is Joe Biden's son, and Joe Biden is part of the criminal cabal, it's being downplayed, and I highly doubt, I'm very skeptical as to whether or not we're going to see any type of legal action or criminal investigations. But let's go ahead and show you guys this video footage so you can see with your own eyes the criminality of the Biden family.
No, I just weighed out the bag. It's 2.06.
2.07 without the bag.
So how long is
2.0.
So in that video clip, Hunter Biden appears to be arguing with a prostitute as to the exact weight of their crack rocks or cocaine or whatever it is. I'm not an expert on drugs, paraphernalia, okay? I'm guessing it's crack because we've seen other clips of him where he appears to be smoking out of some kind of a crack pipe. So let's go ahead and look at the footage of him with the crack pipe, which it's really bizarre to me. Like, what is with this guy's obsession of filming himself with drugs, prostitutes, getting high, filming himself high as a kite? It really is bizarre, and it really illustrates like a lack of fear of the law, like almost as though he believes he's immune and that he won't get in trouble for these things because of who his dad is. So there you have it. There he is, smoking out of a crack pipe right there, and he looks high out of his brain right now, okay? He does. And, you know, the main reason for showing these to you is that so that you can see and believe and know that this is the situation. This is the situation with a lot of these politicians and their kids being messes, their families being hot messes, and these families are pretty much untouchable. They have protections. They don't get in trouble. Yet anyone who is outside the elites and outside of what is considered family or protected, those people, they get held to every bit of the letter of the law. In fact, if you're an enemy of the establishment, they will go after you with everything they have, just like they've gone after Trump and his children with any witch hunt they can possibly come up with. They could find the littlest tiny crumb of Parmesan cheese in the carpet and say that it's crack, and they would have a full-on investigation, and Donald Trump Jr. would be arrested if they found a grain of Parmesan cheese in his carpet somehow. But Joe Biden's son can be out there snorting lines as often as Joe Biden is reading lines off the teleprompter, and of course reading the lines that you're not supposed to read as well, like end of quote. Okay? It's just a whole mess. So here's another video of Hunter Biden where he is, like I said, the guy has some weird thing about nudity. So viewer discretion advised. It is blurred, but still not the prettiest sight. But this is an interesting video where somebody juxtaposed Joe Biden speaking about taking the guns out of the hands of deranged or crazy people. Meanwhile, here his son is on this video, appears to be sexually pleasuring himself while waving a gun around in this video clip.
Does include actions I've long called for that are going to save lives. It funds crisis intervention, including red flag laws. It keeps guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves and to others.
I make it clear.
There are forfeiture statutes. You can, the government can, take everything you own. Everything from your car to your house, your bank account, not merely what they confiscate in terms of the dollars from the transaction that you've just got caught engaging in. They can take everything.
I make it clear.
I think the voters sent a clear message last night. Both parties have to step up and do something about crime as well as gun violence.
I make it clear.
If you have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, $1/4 of $1. We passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice.
I make it clear.
I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society. They are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street.
I make it clear.
How many times have you heard, I bet everybody knows somebody somewhere along the line, that in an intimate relationship, what happened was the guy takes a revealing picture of his naked friend or whatever in a compromising position, and then literally, in a sense, blackmails or mortifies that person. Send it out, put it online.
Rules for thee and none for me. That should be the Joe Biden or Biden family motto, so to speak. Because Joe Biden, he knows his son is a drug fiend who is into prostitutes, selling women for money, potentially molesting and sexually assaulting minors, mind you. And who cares, right? Like, Joe Biden will just protect him because it's his son. And the law enforcement officers saw a lot of this information and worse, okay, guys, because I'm not going to show the stuff that involves minors on these various social media streams and on my show. But law enforcement had access to this information. The real question is, why didn't they do anything with that? We've seen how they've aggressively pursued Trump and his family and anyone around Trump, really the patriots in this country that don't want to go for communism, socialism, and these globalist policies to sell out our nation. So anyone who has been a patriot, they go after, and they literally try to go after them for anything, even if it's process crimes or contempt of court, right? These contempt cases now like Steve Bannon's facing. So it's disgusting, this unequal protection, this double standard, so to speak, where they are immune and we get the book thrown at us for any little thing. And in fact, they'll make up things to try to throw the book at us. It's disturbing. Meanwhile, if you feel bad for Joe Biden at all for having such a messed up son, you can't feel bad for much longer because Joe Biden's been celebrating his new gun control law that he enacted with the help of, mind you, the Democrats would not have had this happen if it weren't for the 15 sellout rhino Republicans in the Senate that went along with this and essentially caved to the Democrats in their push for gun control by signing this new gun control bill. So Biden and the Democrats want to disarm you, but have you seen him put any effort with law enforcement into disarming his son, right? He said he wants to disarm these dangerous individuals, right? Have they disarmed Hunter Biden? Have they took away his gun rights so he can be waving his gun around while he's, sexually pleasuring himself, snorting some crack cocaine? And that's fine, but see, it's not fine if it's anyone else. And look, I'm not saying that people who are crazy like crack fiends necessarily shouldn't have that reevaluated, right? But what I'm saying here is there's a clear double standard, okay? And this is exactly why we can't have these politicians in place that are wanting to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about keeping us safe, guys. It's not really about keeping us safe. It's about making us sitting ducks, and it's about control and power. They want to have the power to rule over us, and they fear the masses being armed. Because if you're a tyrant, that's your greatest opposition. Your greatest enemy is an armed people. So they want to disarm us, and there's not really any justifiable reason to do that other than to try to control the population. And of course, they tell us it's for safety, but we all know that's not true. All right, so let's go to this quick clip where Steve Hilton discusses the definition of the definitive proof the Biden family is corrupt as all get out, and really kind of goes into the criminal dealings of the Biden family that just go unchecked.
Up to his neck in it. Biden wasn't some passive victim of his sleazy son's shady schemes. He was out playing golf with Hunter's business partners. And it's not just that he knew about it, he was making money off it. We know that from the China contract documents promising 10% for Joe Biden, the big guy. We know it from Biden's own business partner, Tony Bobulinski, who said he discussed it with Biden right here in Los Angeles in May 2017. Even more directly, we know it because Hunter Biden sent a text message to his daughter Naomi complaining about having to give Pop, Joe Biden, half his salary. And now this week we got definitive proof in Joe Biden's own words.
I thought the article, released the thing online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think it's clear.
The President of the United States lied and lied and lied again about his role in corruptly exploiting his public office for personal gain.
Exactly. So he needs to be impeached for lying about his role in these dealings. And are we going to ever see that happen? It's very unlikely that we will see that happen. Because like I said, there's the establishment, and then there's the rest of the masses and how they're treated. And then there's those people who are prominent individuals that go up against the establishment. And they get a whole nother special kind of treatment, you know? Like the treatment I got when I was falsely arrested, or the treatment James O'Keefe got when he had the FBI raid his home, or the recent swatting of Steve Bannon, or the raiding against all these other individuals on the conservative right-wing side, or how Trump's family has been gone after time and time again. I mean, you can clearly see the trend here, all right? Clearly. Now, there's a new movie coming out called My Son Hunter, which many people are anticipating because it's supposed to expose the Biden crime family, and it seems pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and watch a little bit of this trailer here. They put up a fundraiser to reach $250,000 to fund this film, and they actually surpassed that. They raised $2.5 million. So, I mean, that's a pretty big goal here, and so I can't wait to see this film. So let's check out a little clip of it.
And I'm Phelan McAleer, and we're so excited to bring you the My Son Hunter movie. The movie about Hunter Biden that blows the lid and exposes the Biden family corruption.
And we've just filmed the movie in Serbia. You are going to love it.
Now, it's a movie, not a documentary, and it's being directed by veteran Hollywood actor Robert Davi. You probably know him as one of the greatest Bond villains, or his role in The Goonies. He was also in Die Hard. He's been in almost every movie of the last 40 or 50 years. He's brought a lot to this movie. And it stars British actor Lawrence Fox, who really inhabits the role of Hunter Biden and captures him in all his not so great glory. We have Gina Carano. Now, you probably remember her from the Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, and then they tried to cancel her because she wouldn't follow the script. Well, thanks to you, they haven't succeeded. She's in this movie. We're so delighted to have her, and she's so committed to telling the truth.
And we also have John James playing the role of Joe Biden, the fumbling, bumbling role of Joe Biden in this movie, and he's absolutely amazing. John James, you'll remember, was Jeff Colby in Dynasty, or as you Americans say, Dynasty, yes. Back in the 80s, and he is absolutely a joy.
Yeah, so best of all, this film is crowdfunded.
By you.
Yeah, by you. You have made this film possible, and we thank you for that. But that's why we're coming back to you.
So isn't that awesome that they are producing a film? It's funded by the people, and they have actors or actresses in the film that were canceled by cancel culture that are now acting in these films that, you know, are showing and exposing the criminal Biden family. Like, I think this is hilarious, all right? It's hilarious. It's called Karma. That's what it's called. All right, so let's get more into what happened surrounding this iCloud leak that leaked on 4chan. So allegedly, the hacker that supposedly hacked into Hunter Biden's iCloud claimed that that's how they got this information. They said, well, I hacked it in the iCloud and leaked it on 4chan. And so this actually really illustrates a big problem with iPhone in general, and these tech companies supposedly acting like they're secure when they're really not. That really shows that many of the devices and options for devices out there today are false alternatives, and they really never were created to protect your privacy to any degree. And it's so easy to gain access to people's personal private files that any hacker can just, with a certain set of skills, hack into your iCloud and then download as like a backup, download your files, your pictures, your messages, your everything onto another device. And that is supposedly what happened These images here are screenshots that were posted on 4chan, and apparently that is what shows that this was a tool that was used called iPhone Backup Extractor by this hacker. Now, this isn't the first time that these iPhones and the iCloud have been hacked. And hackers tend to target people who are famous or celebrities with bigger names. So previous people that were hacked as well using these iPhone extractor type programs were like Jennifer Lawrence, Kate Upton, Kirsten Dunst, and a couple of dozen other celebrities have all been hacked. And that was also from another program that they use called Elcomsoft Phone Password Breaker, or EPPB. And so there are some like forensic tools that law enforcement or cops or possibly even private investigators have, but there are tools that plenty of hackers and people who are computer savvy, they have tools out there that they can use to hack your iCloud or your iPhone devices. And so that's supposedly what happened, and this is supposedly how the hacker hacked into Hunter's iCloud and leaked all of this on 4chan. Now, that's like the story that's being given, but I do wonder if this is just, I mean, there's always the possibility that this is just a leak from the laptop in itself, and maybe someone's trying to cover their tracks because, you know, many of the people who were shared the laptop or the laptop's contents, they wouldn't want to leak it because they don't want to have law enforcement after them, because that's how ridiculous the law enforcement is, that they would probably go after someone for leaking it more than they would actually go after Hunter Biden. So it is interesting. To what degree this is the actual case, I don't know. It could be that they knew of which iCloud to access, which iPhone devices to access, and they just access it that way so that it could have the plausible deniability of a hack or whatnot, because these iClouds are vulnerable. Apparently, iCloud is not even encrypted, so that's a really big issue. So it says privacy experts have warned that data that is on iCloud can be easily subpoenaed because it is not encrypted. Data on an iPhone is harder to extract, though it can be done if law enforcement has physical access to the device and uses a tool like Gray Key. So you can access the information on iCloud very easily because it's not encrypted, and they can do it as well on your iPhone. Although it's not quite as easy, they can still do it. So just know, if you are someone worried about subpoenas or anything of that nature, like, don't think that these phones are really that safe and secure. All right. But if you're just some everyday person and you just have pictures of like your kids and your dog or whatever, then you probably have nothing to worry about anyway. But it just really illustrates how these devices were never made to really be secure, because the intelligence agencies always wanted to be able to have access and have a backdoor into everyone's devices so they could have surveillance. They really just want to have a big surveillance state, okay? All right, now let's get into Twitter. We know that Elon Musk recently he announced that he is backing out of the Twitter deal, the $44 billion Twitter deal that he originally offered Twitter for the purchase of Twitter, after Twitter failed to comply with releasing sufficient evidence to show that Twitter isn't just full of bots. So Twitter initially tried to claim that they had under 5% of bots on their platform, but Elon Musk ended up later tweeting out saying that 20% of users on Twitter were bots. Now, why is this an issue, and what are bots? Why is this an issue, right? Bots are fake programs created, and there are many uses of bots, okay? Many uses of bots. Oftentimes, they can use bots to skew and make it look like someone's more popular than they are. So this is a way of controlling the social media experiences. But bots are actually a bigger problem on the internet and on social media than most people realize. Over 30% of internet traffic is estimated to be bots, okay? That's a big deal. And 25% of bad traffic on social media during the pandemic was bot activity. And 40% combined altogether was bot activity. So they saw a large bump in surplus in bot activity during the pandemic. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be because they want to control the narrative? Could it be a psyop being waged on the American people? You guys do the math on that one. All right? So they use these bots in order to sway public opinion. They can use it to hyper-focus in people onto a hashtag. So when you see these trending hashtags, they can do repost storms and have people, tons of bots, repost a certain video or content to push a political narrative or a psyop. Click farming to make it look like a certain video has tons of likes or popularity. Trend jacking or water holing attacks. Okay, so there are all kinds of things that they do with these bots on social media. And so what you can actually do is, why would Twitter, why would some of these other companies allow bots? Well, here's the issue. They're not necessarily, we can't say that they're allowing bots. See, apparently Twitter has to delete tons of bots. And they routinely delete tons of bots, as well as most of these other social medias are constantly having to delete tons of bots. Well, the problem is because the way they set up their platforms to begin with, they didn't put up any parameters to discourage or prevent bots from being able to get into their system in the first place. So because their door is always wide open, they're always going to have bot problems. And when you have the bots there, that means these IIA activities can be ran, psychological warfare activities can be ran, where you literally have these software programs that are designed by the military to influence the public. And it's like, boom, they're in there, they're swaying the political opinion. And if anything, Twitter could potentially, it could be argued that maybe Twitter could be selling access, right, by maybe getting rid of some bots and not others for political influence campaigns. So that's something that you should ask and want to learn more about. Now, Elon Musk backed out because of the bots. Now, some people are saying that it has something else to do with stocks and that this was all just a big hustle or a big scam, and that he just did this as cover to sell $8.5 billion of Tesla stock, which I don't know if that's necessarily the case. To me, it seems like these media outlets, which are full of assets, are trying to run cover for bots and the bot activity. It's a very uncomfortable subject because bot farms are being used by people on the left and people on the right. Intelligence contractors on the left and the right. They're both using these bot farms. Neither side wants to give up the goose. Neither side wants to give up this tool because it's too tempting to be able to push and sway the American public in any which direction. I mean, it is a power trip for many of these individuals, and they can make a lot of money off doing it, selling it to various politicians and political campaigns and really pushing for complete control and like a pay-to-play system on social media. So is it a Tesla stock cover-up? I don't know. I think it's a cover-up from some of these left-wing or media outlets that don't want to talk about the uncomfortable subject of the serious bot problem on these social media networks. Now, here's the other thing about bots. One of the things that could be argued about with bots is from like an advertisement perspective, are advertisers being taken advantage of because of having to pay for views and finding out that a lot of those views were fake views by bots. You see what I'm saying? You see how some of these social media companies could really be taking advantage here by having people pay for views from bots when it's not actually real people? So there's some problems with that there, okay? Definitely some, and that might be why someone like Elon Musk, who maybe was initially told it was less than 5%, then when he starts seeing some internal documents, he's seeing more, and other tech analysts are doing analytics on Twitter and various social media sites, and they're saying, no, there's at least over 15% of bot activity on Twitter. So this could be Botgate. that they're trying to cover up here, folks. All right. This is a big deal. Definitely a big deal. And I hope that we see more here. Now, one of the funny things, I guess Elon Musk tweeted out that, you know, he initially said he wanted to buy Twitter, and then they couldn't prove that there weren't less than 5% of bots, so he pulled out of the deal. And now Twitter threatens that they're going to sue him. So now Twitter's going to have to be forced to provide that documentation in a legal court setting. So this should all get very interesting, okay? And look, I'm not saying Elon Musk is some hero. In fact, President Trump recently came out at his rally in Alaska and basically called him a scammer because Elon Musk supposedly told Trump that he voted for him, and then later on in another publication he said this was the first time he was voting Republican, right? So, not saying I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, but I'm a fan of this information getting out and being exposed, and this underbelly being exposed. Definitely. Okay? That is why QUX, the new tech company that is created essentially to deal with and address these problems, is such an enemy to the establishment, to big tech. It is why big tech and the establishment are doing everything they can to try to stop it, try to take it out by the knees or the ankles, because they know the power of that, the power of giving people an alternative solution, okay? An alternative solution that is a bot-free zone, mind you. So imagine having a phone or like a Roku type device or Apple TV type device, a streaming TV device that is a bot-free zone. So you know that every single person you're engaging with in that is a real person. It's completely encrypted, super secure, cannot be gotten into or hacked, super walled off, its own private network. Okay? Very private. And there's so many more features to it. It's insane how many other great features there are to it. But before I get more into it, watch this video on QUX so you can get an idea as to the fact that there are real solutions out there. And this is why people like Elon Musk are now hyper-fixated and interested in something called a super app. Out of nowhere, this article pops up right after Elon Musk turns down the Twitter deal. All these articles talking about what the heck is a super app, and why are Elon Musk, Evan Spiegel, and Jack Dorsey so interested? Why suddenly are they so interested in super apps? Gee, it couldn't be because QUX is a super app inside of its own custom hardware and custom private network, could it be? Could it be that? Yes, it is that. So word's getting around, and now the race is off, and they are trying to figure out ways to come up with their own devices and their own super apps to compete. A super app is not necessarily a brand new thing. Super apps are existent in Asian countries right now, so there are a couple different super apps out there. But what is a super app, and how is it different from an app? Well, a super app is an app that instead of just doing one thing, just like how Twitter is an app that's just this one social media type experience, a super app can do multiple things. And really the idea of a super app is trying to encompass it all. So there are many things inside of a super app. So inside QUX itself being a super app inside of its own private hardware network and electronic devices, it's got a marketplace store in there. It's got its own app store as well as its own e-commerce store. It's got where people can put content, videos, live stream pictures, everything. It's got music where people can buy and sell music. It's got so much stuff in it because it is a super app. And really, it will be the first super app in the United States that I know of today, right? So there's this big race now for super apps. And so it's interesting to see Elon Musk drop Twitter like it's hot, realizing how bad the bot situation is, to now looking towards super apps when QUX is out there touting its bot-free zone and its high data privacy features and encrypted communications and encrypted transactions, mind you. It is the future. That is the future. So what is QUX? Watch this video and you will see.
The year is 2022. Cancel culture is the new normal. Online freedom as we know it has ended. Digital stockades are here. All activity is monitored, stored, and predictively analyzed by a technological cartel. We're being converted into a digital resource, a digital currency to be farmed for metadata and loaded into a computerized combine. Blockchained to a social engineering operating system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Be part of a new technological revolution. Right now, 1,000 test pilots have launched themselves into a new digital frontier, a private network outside of big tech control. New technology with state-of-the-art digital engagement and never-done-before security and privacy features that are now operational. With Qwix, digital engagement, entertainment, communication, and commercial exchange will never be the same. We are QUX. Qwix. Advanced pre-release sales are limited to 3,000. Order now by visiting Qwix.tv. Get yours now before they sell out. Be part of a brand new online experience that you control.
So you can go to QUX.tv to find out more about QUX. So what makes QUX different from just a regular website, right? Because there's regular social media websites out there, so why not just have done a regular social media website? Why do an actual hardware physical device? Well, see, one of the unique things with QUX is that because it is its own physical hard device, they have an MAC number attached to every single one of these devices. So when you purchase your QUX box and become part of the QUX network, you are essentially let in and you're attached to that MAC number with your name and your card. So essentially, it cannot be a it cannot be a zone where bots exist. Whereas many of these other websites out there, anyone could create fake social media accounts. They could create tons of bot accounts on them, and you wouldn't really be able to tell, none the wiser. Sure, there are social media sites out there that are taking parameters to try to combat bots and try to take them out, but they're a constant reoccurring problem that they are always dealing with, and that is one of the things that really led Elon Musk to not want to purchase Twitter, was this reoccurring bot problem, so to speak. So I think that when we're looking at the future of tech, we're going to start seeing more and more companies try to offer something similar to what QUX is offering, in that it's a bot-free zone, and people will know that everyone they're engaging with there is a real person. You don't have to engage with everyone there, right? If there's someone you don't like or whatever, you can not have to engage with them, just as they could not have to engage with you. But they're all real people, and that's a key, because it ensures that, you know, people that might want to be running ads, they're not going to have to worry about any type of scams where these social media companies claim they're getting more activity than they really are. Okay, so if you notice at the beginning of that video, talked a lot about how there's this encroaching social credit score system where we're all going to be blocked into these online avatar type persona accounts that they build out, much like people have credit scores today where they run your FICO score or your credit score to find out if you will be accepted for a mortgage or a car loan application. the future of the social credit score system would be using your social media usage and activity and funneling that into a new system to where you could be declined the ability to even pay for a train ticket or a plane ticket if you have a low social credit score. That is why it is more important than ever to start to really reevaluate your relationship with your technological devices, what information you share, what data you share, because this is something that they are moving towards. Definitely they are moving towards this. So they are even using it in law enforcement settings for predictive policing. So predictive policing is something where police and law enforcement are using algorithms in order to predict where crime may or may not occur in specific areas. They use the data that they scan from their large data sets, and then they can deploy police officers in specific areas. And the police might not even know why they're being called to a specific area, but the tech will be driving them, right? The data will be telling them where to go, where to post up, where you're more likely to find crime, who's somebody that's a high risk individual. So whether or not you're likely to use deadly force or not will be determined by data and tech. That is the world that we're moving in toward. Based on current trends, the trend here in the United States, and we see this also in China and various other states more than we even do now, but a surveillance state is on the horizon here if we don't do something about it, and if we don't make changes to start protecting our data and our privacy. We're giving the government all the tools they would need to police the public with a surveillance state. So those are things we definitely need to be concerned about. Now, social credit scores. We know that China has been testing out their social credit score system, and people in China do not like this, but they're not allowed to say they don't like this, because if they do, it'll affect their social credit score. That's how bad the problem is there. But analysts are now warning that the social credit score could be coming to America, and not through government mandates per se, because we have civil liberties and laws that protect us from that, but through the private sector and private banks, insurance companies, and even tech companies. So we're giving big tech and these private companies all these tools to spy on us and to use our tech and our data for nefarious means. So we're essentially consenting to this surveillance state by giving them our data, because then they can use that data against us. Do you want your data that's being collected from all your phone calls, all your private messages, all of your content in your phone, your social media interactions, what you say near your phone devices, all that being plugged in and then potentially being barred from buying a plane ticket, or your health insurance rates go up because they can look at your data and see things in your family or whatever. I mean, there's things that could be done here that could make our lives a living hell. But one of the things that is not talked about very much by people is the carbon footprint trackers, and this emphasis that they place on tracking people's carbon footprints and their emissions, so to speak. So this is very concerning. It's something called the ESG rating, environmental, social, and governance. That is the ESG rating system that they're trying to impose on all of us. What would that be? So they would be looking at environmental, like your carbon footprint, your carbon emissions, looking at social justice, meaning how you are engaging socially, if you're using people's pronouns, right? Like, I'm not even kidding you. It could get that disturbing here, folks. And governance, which would be like law and law, you know, your criminal history and whatnot, and maybe what you're into politically. So these are things that now the finance industry, banks and other rating industries and agencies, proxy agents and global clubs are starting to use these things, and they're trying to really use their political sway and their financial sway to get banks and other institutions to follow these ESG rating systems that they want to force on everyone. So these are definitely concerning things that we need to be definitely following more and more, because you could in the very well in the future be not only having a FICO score, but also an ESG rating when it comes to getting a loan for your house or a loan for a car. That is what they're trying to do. So one of the things that's really creepy is there's a new climate tech startup called Doconomy, which in partnership with MasterCard has developed a credit card that can track the carbon footprints of all of your purchases, including food and travel, and cuts off your spending when you hit a certain personal emissions limit. So that means you could be in a store and you swipe your card to try to pay with your money that you earned. And they could say, sorry, no, you're over your emissions limit. Sorry, no, that goes over your carbon footprint limit. You can't have that. That is what they want to force us all into. Why? Because these credit card companies, Visa, MasterCard, all that, every single swipe that happens with your card, they have that information and that data as to what you're purchasing, where you're purchasing. Okay? So they have all that being tracked. So if they can limit you on that, I mean, there's a problem there, right? So that's one of the other things and solutions that QUX addresses inside the Portal universe and inside the super app of QUX, okay, is they have the token system where you can literally transfer your USD into tokens and you can engage in private encrypted transactions so that none of that data is being tracked or stored, so that these credit card companies can't do anything, right? I mean, they're trying to create a social credit score system. They're trying to create this ESG rating system for individuals where people are going to be policed in a way we've never seen before, all in the name of climate change and social justice, mind you. So we can either continue to be reliant on their technology, their systems, their cards, their everything, or we can say, you know what, we've had enough. We're going to go do our own thing and make our own electronics and get on our own electronics and get off of this system. We don't want to be part of your system of control. Okay? That's what we're looking at here, folks. Look up this article, read it over. It is a very, very key article that was put together by the Epoch Times. It's called Are Social Credit Scores Coming to America? And it really goes into depth. And it even goes to say that, it goes on saying there's a company called Walletmore, which has developed a chip that can be implanted into your hand that carries your personal information and can simply be waved over a sensor to make payments. So the ideal situation that they want, here's the quote so you can see it for yourself, guys. The ideal situation they want is they want us all having chips in our hand when we go to the grocery store, making our purchases, which they track and surveil, and being told what we can and can't buy, tracking our carbon emissions, our carbon footprint, okay? Telling us whether we can drive somewhere or not based on our mileage, right? Because they want us all to be on electric vehicles or on some kind of private or public transport, right? But remember, if you don't have a good ESG rating or a good social credit score rating, you won't be able to buy the train ticket or the plane ticket. So they want you completely dependent on them and their grid and their system. And anyone that dares disobey, they're the underclass. Anyone that doesn't want to go along becomes the underclass really quickly. That has already been happening to people in China under their social credit score system. It's already been happening. We've been seeing it happening already on social media and on the internet, where conservatives have been unilaterally banned from many different services. I mean, what they did it to Alex Jones, they did it to Laura Loomer, they did it to all these other conservatives. I got banned from numerous sites, okay, and services. So they're already starting this trend of banning people from services based on what they have said or done on social media. But it's not just about going after people like me that would be considered more of a high-profile target. It's about going after every single one of you in your daily life and what you choose to watch, what you choose to engage in, right? Whether or not you attended the Pride Parade will affect your social credit score rating. You better believe it, because they know where you are when you are with your phones. That is the dystopic future and reality they want to cage us into. That is the exact reason and the only reason why QUX decided, you know what? We're creating something else of our own, because screw them and screw the system they're trying to force all of humanity into. Because we're willing to bet that humanity says, we don't want that. We want this. Right? And I'm willing to bet it as well. I think, people are not going to want to be part of the social credit score system. They're not going to want to be caged into these devices that they can surveil us on. I mean, it's amazing. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely amazing what True the Vote was able to do with the movie 2000 Mules, and how they were able to use the cell phone ping data in order to track all these mules to see where they were dropping the ballots in the ballot boxes and the routes they were on, right? And they were able to get a lot of intel and information on that. So that's a good thing, I guess, in that sense. But at the same time, it illustrates how easy it is to just purchase all of our cell phone data. All of our data is just up for grabs and up for sale. And that's how a lot of social media sites out there, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, how they make their income and their money is by selling your data and your privacy. So, food for thought, people, food for thought. If you want to be part of the new net, the portal universe, go to QUX.com and get your QUX device. Or sorry, QUX.tv. Get your QUX device. Okay? Be part of the new network. Be part of a new technological revolution where we've said we don't want to be part of your social credit score system. We don't want to be locked in to being spied on. We don't want the surveillance state. We want our privacy back. That's the statement you make today when you get on QUX.tv. And look, I'm not saying that you should just, get off of their thing entirely right now. No, not necessarily. What I'm saying is go onto this new network and slowly migrate onto it and migrate yourself off of the network that's being spied on, the surveillance state networks, on all these websites, these social media sites where you are being spied on, you are being tracked, monitored. Get onto an area where you could have your communications with your family and your friends and everything else in a way that's protected and private. And one of the things that's beautiful for families is if you have young children, this is a way they can engage in a social type experience with their family and friends, and as well as engaging in content where things that they post might not, if you put it in a private setting, you can guarantee that's going to be in a private setting, and you're not going to have to worry as much with like how the current model on social media is, where you see all these kids that have posted things in their young age, and then when they become university age, suddenly something they said then that was fine, now, they're singing the lyrics to a song that it's not acceptable, and then their whole careers are ruined, right? So that's something that parents have to worry about all the time. All right, so I'm here with Gavin Wentz, the CEO or president of QUX. Sorry, the president of QUX, and he's here with me just to he's sitting here in studio, and he's going to answer some of your questions about QUX, and he's going to go into some of the latest details and updates on QUX, and really kind of go more into the ESG, the environmental social governance system, and what he thinks about that. So first of all, Gavin, what do you think about the social credit score systems that analysts are predicting are going to come to America?
I think they're already here. In fact, something that we're both familiar with when we were dealing with the wind turbine developers, that first they come in and get everything in place, and then once it's all in place, then they implement it. So I would imagine that probably by the time 2016 was around, they had everything set up, and it just was a matter of slowly but surely looking for the right trigger moment to implement one aspect or another of it. And we're now at the point where people are realizing just how bad it is because we're seeing people deplatformed in ways they never thought would happen.
Absolutely. I mean, when I read about the ESG system and how they want to track our transactions and track our purchases and then use that information against us in order to limit the possibilities for loans and for mortgages, that to me was very concerning, and it definitely had me wanting to let people know more about QUX so that people can kind of save themselves from that coming future. I mean, we already know that all of us on social media, that we are already we've already made our bed essentially. Like someone like me or many of us who have been vocal on social media, and we're vocal about maybe being against forced vaccinations, or we're vocal about our support at the time for Trump while he was president. And we're vocal about our support for the Second Amendment and guns. And maybe we're not okay with the sexualization of children in these drag shows. So we've been vocal about things online already that I'm wondering if, that'll all be coming to bite us in the butt later on when they implement a social credit score system. I mean, what do you think?
Well, the problem is that before social media, the internet was essentially just people connecting to server networks online. Then all of a sudden you had all these platforms roll out, and people got so used to the platforms that they now think Facebook, YouTube, Google is the internet, not even realizing actually those are just websites, really. And the devices are all, curated to give preferential treatment to those websites. So people have kind of lost track of that. So it's kind of a really weird fake, it's a false sense of being in a cage because it's not that big of a deal. But the big deal is the fact that we literally have two companies that we use for the majority of our technology, and that's what creates it in the first place. It's a strange situation. So what do I think the impact of social media will be? It's what we're willing to it's what we're willing to tolerate. Like, are we just going to voluntarily walk into this? I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
Right, definitely. So how do you think QUX will be a solution to the coming social credit score system in America?
Well, everything from the beginning of building it has been a response to their tyranny. For instance, what really got us started on this was when Alex Jones and others got simultaneously removed from multiple platforms to see that those were capabilities being demonstrated. So if they can throw Alex Jones off 100 platforms at once and a bunch of payment processors, then that means they can do it to anybody. It's like when they recently shut everyone down in Russia from Apple, Microsoft, and other platforms in electronics. That's showing a capability. People don't quite see, they don't read between the lines. So what's being demonstrated is they can selectively choose who can be and who cannot be present digitally. And if we continue to allow these companies to control every aspect of our digital reality, then it will get to the point where they can just lock someone out of their system, which at that point would be the only system. And you'll have people starving to death on the streets because they're unable to engage in anything. And it's really collectively us choosing to go down that path, because I'm still kind of shocked no one else is making alternative devices, hardware and software to the level that QUX is. I don't know why no one else is doing that.
Right. It's I don't know why we aren't seeing more people decide to do exactly what QUX has done. And the only thing I can think of is, one, maybe they lack the creativity, or it's just that a lot of the people who have been in power, who've created these social medias, they've done so at the behest of the intelligence companies.
Well, we've seen two things. One, everyone just copies what's already out there, and if you come up with a good idea, a bunch of vultures will crowd around you to see who the first is that can steal it. So one thing we've seen is some of our more low-hanging fruit kinds of features being kind of cherry-picked by other people trying to beat us to our own, end. But when you look at all those alternatives, none of them actually address the core issue. No one seems to quite capture the ultimate problem, and that is, if Apple and Google control all the hardware and software for the most part, where's the third or fourth option? Because every other third or fourth option, if you look at it, it's like, oh, it's actually just Google all over again. It's like the couple of the devices we saw in the conservative movement that popped out of nowhere. Those all had Google inside of them. None of them were de-Googled. They all showed the capability to work and integrate with Google software. So again, that's still not addressing the issue. Or my favorite, if you go look at some famous alternative websites, terms of service and their privacy policies, they've got every ad exchange and Google software in and out of it telling you that they're collecting and selling your data. Platforms that are extremely anti-Google using Google to make money. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So talk a little bit about the QUX tokens and how that's new and revolutionary, how it differs from what most people think of as, like, it's not digital currency by any means.
No, it's not.
But how is it different, and how does it protect people when they're engaging on online type of transactions?
Well, first and foremost, QUX tokens are not any form of currency. It really is nothing more than a security feature that allows you to buy and sell in our private network without having to exchange your banking or private information every time you do a transaction. If you think about it, let's say I want to sell you something. You have to go to the website, usually log in, do a two-factor verification, enter your card information. By the time you actually order something, you've made multiple, upwards of 10 steps to get it done. And in that entire process, you have multiple vulnerabilities. So with people being deplatformed and everyone having to migrate or create their own platform or website, throughout the day, if you were actually going to shop or support or just, in some manner engage financially with all these different platforms and websites, you're just leaving yourself open to an inevitable hack or your card information being stolen. And the proof of that are all the services that these platforms offer for, search the dark web to see if your private information is being used. The whole thing's a giant racket,
right.
So one of the nice things about the QUX tokens is by taking the time to have everything isolated from the internet and built in a way that doesn't have data logs and all the different vulnerabilities, it makes it so that we can do things in a simpler way. So really all the token is a way for you to buy and sell without having to trade your personal private information each transaction. And it's somewhat like going to Chuck E. Cheese, purchasing tokens and then using those tokens to play games or whatever, and then you get tickets, and those tickets can be traded for items and so on and so forth,
Right. And one of the things I think is actually really neat is from the perspective of a merchant, because the QUX store is supposed to be going live soon, like literally.
Any day. Yep.
Right. So any day, the QX marketplace is going to open up, and that means that merchants, people that have small businesses or large businesses can start selling products on there. And what's cool about it is like the products can actually be sold on the videos of people that they pay for ads for as well. So there's like an advertising aspect as well. But one of the cool things I think from like a merchant aspect is, merchants oftentimes online have to worry about chargebacks and things like that, which, some people that can cause their business a lot of damage. One of the interesting things here about the QUX tokens is that it kind of mitigates some of that. It kind of buffers some of that because there's like a dispute resolution process, and it's not like the merchants won't have to worry about their banks or their processing abilities being shut down, correct?
One of the remedies that we came to, well, there's several things going on. If you really get to the bottom of most of the big issues, payment processing's at the center of it. So in order to deal with that issue, the tokenization is part of it. And what happens is, because all of our transactions are happening on the QUX side, both the merchant and the customer are on our network side using tokens, dispute resolution and risk management and all that actually only happens on the QUX side. So the irony is the banks are very excited to work with how we're doing things because they're not having to deal with those problems. So it allows us to have a very low transaction fee by setting it up that way. So a lot of the reasons why other people have been banned from payment processors, like you could use the OnlyFans example, where OnlyFans had multiple processors that would handle multiple levels of risk. There was a time when there was adult entertainment on OnlyFans, and some processors had issues with that. So they canceled them, and then OnlyFans had to give up having the adult entertainment. And what it boiled down to ultimately were chargeback issues and how actuaries measure risk and how much transaction fees.
This is now, isn't this one of the underlying issues though for why so many social media sites and other sites in general have been being pressured to ban conservatives and political speech that's not seen as friendly from the establishment? They're using that same type of excuse, correct? It's identical. What's kind of funny is that conservatives will listen to themselves and think, I'm not saying anything offensive, and they'll think, I'm going to sit here and really throttle my language and get frustrated with, how am I being censored or banned? I'm not crazy and wild like Alex Jones or others, right? And they don't get it. And it doesn't even have to do with any of that. It really has to do with the payment processing. And you'll find the strangest little particularities inside the terms of service to where between, let's just say YouTube, right? Between YouTube and the bank they're using, there's probably 4 or 5 layers of terms of service that you're not even realizing you're dealing with by just simply being monetized on that platform. You would have the advertiser's terms of service, the platform's terms of service, the bank processor who's processing the money through Google AdSense. You know what I mean? Like, right. So in all of that meshed, interwoven interest, that's where all the problems are. So the only way to fix that is to basically assume all of the risk. And by doing that, by having the entire payment processing for QUX happening internally through the tokens, the payment processors themselves no longer are necessarily party to the transactions directly and only are involved with the buying and selling of tokens. Now, I know this is super getting way into the weeds of how it works, but... Right, yeah. I mean, I think it's important to kind of spell out all of the the minutia on what's going on with QUX and why some of the features were implemented in the way they were. And a lot of that was to get around the censorship. The realization that you can't just go create a social media platform, because at that point, if you were to just create a website, you'd be beholden to these other electronic devices and their app stores, like the Apple App Store or the Google Play App Store, or you'd be beholden to the payment processors, and the payment processors could shut you down at any time. So if you look at why QUX was built the way it was built, it was to find the ultimate solution to get around the censorship, to get around the ability for them to try to yank the curtain from you, right? Like,
well, let me give you an example, and what I'm about to discuss isn't 100% exact, but as an analogy, it works. Okay, so back in the 60s, 70s, when they started having computers at every business or university or whatever, you had to have a computer engineer on site to deal with any bugs or fixes that needed to be done if the computers froze. And then when they started having computers network so that they could do file sharing, if they had data logs, they wouldn't have to have a computer engineer on site, because they could remotely access the computer and modify and update it from a distance. So what's kind of interesting is that it's kind of like how the modern car is not very different from the Model T. The modern computer are smartphones and devices, and the internet are not really much different from how it was in the late 60s. And so the back doors into everything, the data logs, all these sort of archaic approaches, these archaic ways to approach networking are still there. One of the things that QUX has done is to implement an entire new way of doing all this that does not have data logs, that does not work in the traditional sense. So that, I don't know why I went down that tangent. What were we just discussing? Sorry.
Right. So I guess one of the other questions that I know a lot of people have had ever since in the QUX Telegram, there was a post of a QUX phone. Do you want to talk a little bit about QUX?
Oh, I remember what it was. Okay. So with the data logs and all this is where the system of ad exchanges come in. And the reason why it's important to understand how ad exchanges work is because essentially the data logging and the back door is what allows for all the information to be collected and aggregated so that advertisers can target you with advertising. It's the cliche talking with your friends near your device, and then all of a sudden you see on social media advertisements that correspond with the discussions you were having.
So somebody asked here about monthly fees. Is there a monthly fee associated with having a QUX box or phone?
That's up to the content creator and the users. Some people...
But like the box itself,
No.
in order to have access to
No.
content on the box, do you have to pay a monthly fee?
No, basically QUX is designed to have free content. However, there probably will be, and we expect there to be, pay for content, like if someone hosts or premieres videos. But yeah, there's free content on there.
So so the majority of the content on there will be created by portal creators. So someone like me, I can go on there and create my MillennialMillie portal and have all my content upload and put it all on there. And my way, if I choose, which I think this is going to be the most popular way for most people, would be to just go the advertising route. And the reason why you have to do advertising is so that you don't put the financial burden on the people and the viewer, essentially. Like, could you imagine like buying a box and then having to have like 1 million different subscriptions you have to pay? Like, no one would want that. No one would want to do that at all. So the way QUX built the portal universe was so that people could go on there and people can monetize and run ads on their content. And really, the QUX ad experience is like way less ads, right? right? Like, that's what you were saying.
Again, back to the ad exchanges, because we don't have the data logs. We're not having to have all this extra storage for keeping, you know, all the information on everyone, what they're doing. So we designed it in a different way, right? And in doing so, basically, I keep losing track of what were you just, sorry, I keep trying to remember this one thing. What were we just talking about? I'm sorry.
I was talking about the subscription model. Like, people were asking, is there a fee? So no, there's not a fee. There's no monthly fee for a QUX box. So basically, once you get it, you can watch whatever you want to watch, and most of the content on there is free. Now, there might be some people on there in the portal universe that create a portal and they want to have their method as a subscription, so people could choose to pay a subscription if they want to have access to that one portal on there. But the vast majority of people are most likely going to just have the advertisement.
So what
set
it
up.
boils down to is it's expensive to provide bandwidth. It is.
Right.
So with us not keeping data logs and us not having to store everybody's information, it frees up more space so that we actually can have more bandwidth available. So the reality is, look at how Hulu and Netflix are now starting to play ads, even though they're subscription based. We thought out the subscription based model because we thought, okay, well, you know, Millie could have her audience could pay a subscription, but the problem is, okay, now you're paying $100, $200 for not that much content. So the subscription model really doesn't work. So it really had to boil down to advertising. But how do we make advertising work? Because no one wants to sit around and watch a bunch of ads. Like, for instance, we'll try to enjoy a show together, and, you know, after 4 minutes of ads, I'm over it. You know, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go do something. So even I won't be able to tolerate my own platform having that kind of advertising. So really and truly, we're looking at like an hour's worth a minute's worth of advertising per hour is what we're looking at. And then it's advertising where you get to pick what kind of ads you're going to see.
Right. So you actually get to pick your own ad experience. So, like, you know, a lot of people during the Super Bowl and stuff, they actually want to watch commercials. They're like, oh, cool, I can't wait to see the Super Bowl commercials. But I've noticed that, like, when I'm online and I'm browsing and I'm looking up products and things I'm interested in that I might want to buy, I actually look up product reviews and I watch kind of commercials in essence of those products. So if you're actually picking your ad experience, which you can constantly be updating and custom tailoring, you're actually going to be seeing stuff you're interested in possibly getting or buying. So it could even be like, you know, ads of like, you know, sporting goods or guns or hunting gear or things
ads,
like that you're interested in, or local ads, like the local businesses in your community. So it's a really interesting way of doing it. So it doesn't have to be torturous in watching the same ad on repeat, because I noticed that on some of these other streaming services where it's like the same ad over and over, and you're just driven to insanity with the same ad over again, something you're not even interested in. So
and we're going to encourage people that have stores to make ads, because we're going to need a diverse selection of ads, because the advertising is not going to be done the same way. Essentially, ads is just, hey, I happen to have something you're looking for.
Right.
When you're done watching this show, if you want to buy it, it's over here.
And it might be kind of comical too, because, you know, it'll be regular people, even like small businesses and mom and pop businesses might even get in the game and start making their own ads, and it will
car
be
dealership ads.
You know, it'd be interesting to see your own businesses and your small, like, we're in a small town community here, but like in your, you know, in this vicinity, there's like, you know, a little race car track. There's an action figure comics store. There's just a little wild rescue zoo. I mean, there's a bunch of little things in this area, at even like little pizza stores and little shops and stuff. So if those people were to get on there and start creating ads for their local area, all I would have to do if I chose to was punch in my zip code in my ad selection feature, and then it's showing me all the local ads for my area, and it's all going to be people in the small area and small town that I know, and businesses I can go visit and see. So it becomes a little bit more personalized in a way. I think the whole local. Do you want to talk about the small town initiative that QUX is planning to do?
Well, you had a question about the phone. We'll first talk on that.
Okay.
So right now, our whole tech team is essentially in a huddle doing the last things that need done to just really get QUX finished, because it's been lots of delays and we're really we need to get this thing finished. So that's what they're working on. The store is supposed to be done any day, as well as an update for the video player. As soon as that happens, within 3 to 4 weeks after that, our CDN is going to be up and running. So in about a month, people are going to be able to live stream and run advertisements on the content on QUX. As soon as that's done, our messaging is going to be done. So all of a sudden, people are going to be able to have a TV-to-TV video conference over our own encrypted messaging system. And then that's when we're going to launch the phone test pilot program. So we look forward to doing that. Right now we're going through testing different hardware, different cameras, different microphones, trying to really find our best option. But that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, people have been really excited about the phones, definitely. So that's an exciting thing because, you know, QUX being a bit more closed for privacy and security features, I know people have been like, well, what about a phone so that I can take it mobile with me and access the Portal Universe mobile and access all that stuff mobile? And so this is an image that was recently posted on the QUX Telegram of some QUX phones. So if you guys haven't yet been following along on the QUX Telegram, I suggest you do, especially if you are a QUX owner, because there's a whole vast community on here of QUX users, and everyone just is, you know, sharing things and helping each other out, helping walk each other through things. Sometimes people end up finding that there's something maybe they can't figure out or they need help with, and there's a great community on here of people that walk them through, and it ends up always being just some really minor, silly little thing, you know, but yeah, there's a great community on here. So go on Telegram and follow the QUX Inc. chat, because that's really the best way to stay updated. And if you have direct questions that you want to ask
There's one on there.
The QUX team, you can ask those and they will respond and
So
get you that answer that you want.
One question is, what is the single most important thing we as individuals can do to help in QUX Inc.'s battle against invasion of privacy? It's really simple. We need everyone to just get a box, and here's why. Even though we're going to be coming out with a phone at some point in the not too distant future, the TV boxes allow us to build out the network. So when you get your phone, you will essentially be plugging into the same network as the box. The box just serves as an entry-level product that's not too much of a financial commitment for either you or us to get the ball rolling. And there's no other TV box out there like it anywhere, where you can shop, build out your own content. It's like Roku or an Apple TV, where the audience is in control of the content and the store, and it's all done encrypted. And there's features that we haven't even gotten into, because there'll be the ability to build out apps. If someone wanted to say, let's make a ride share application or other things, that's all going to be possible real soon.
Right, and there's been a lot of app developers too that have been really interested.
There are app developers in the background making things as we speak. I can't really talk about it, but like I said, in about 2 months we're going to have our official launch, and that's when all of a sudden the App Store is going to open up and there's going to be several apps in there. I think people are going to be shocked at what's going to pop out right out of the gate. Yeah,
and you know what? I think it's really important to kind of state that QUX is so much more than even just a TV box. Like, I know it's been generalized and called just a TV box, but QUX, the operating system, the super app, the Portal Universe, that itself is something that's new, and it's much more than a TV box. So that's why, with the QUX phone and the other devices in the lineup for QUX, it's so much more than that. And QX is a tech company that is taking on and rivaling like Apple and Android.
Let me just say this. Okay, so from an outside looking in perspective, you see, okay, we've got this TV box. Not all the features are unlocked. There's a bunch of things coming. From the inside looking out, there are several other devices, including the phone, that we're working on right now. There's one thing that Millie can agree that we've been having meetings with that's just over the top.
Right.
Something that, because we've been able to really catch certain people's attention, we have something in the works right now. It's not guaranteed, but it's looking like it is. That's just over the top. And if we lock that down, when we launch this thing, it will literally be an entirely brand new internet with everything walled off, so that no longer will they be able to do this cancel culture stuff. The one thing that people haven't quite figured out is the payment processor issue. And that's the one thing we really, I'm going to say, we've cornered the market with significantly.
Right, and a lot of this stuff here with QUX, I mean, QX has intellectual property rights and patents and things. So, in a way, QX has cornered the market on some of these varied new features or new things that they are bringing.
The way they're being done.
Right, right. So, it's definitely unique. There's nothing out there like it, and I think that QX being able to get those patents and have that intellectual property right, so to speak, on certain things is what sets it apart, in that these things have literally never been done before.
For instance, people are all caught up with, where's your product come from? One thing that is unique about QUX is no matter where it comes from, none of the software or operating system is inside it until you plug it in. And that's actually how we figured out the ultimate way to protect our intellectual property is if we control the encryption keys, and whoever's making a component for us has no access to those encryption keys, and they simply just have a little tool that we give them that once the box is connected to the internet, it's directed to our network that then installs the operating system into the device. At that point, how are they going to steal our intellectual property?
Now, here's another question I think some people have is, how would QX not just be censored then from like the internet service provider level? Because some people might speculate, well, couldn't the internet service providers just shut off your internet to your device?
This is okay. That's one of the better questions to ask. Reason being is this: because QX doesn't do things the same way, I can't answer the question in the way that you would expect. Like, for instance, people ask, well, what about a VPN? See, the reason why you need a VPN is because when you connect an ordinary device to the internet, not only does the internet service provider have access to you since you're accessing the internet through them, but because of all the big data and the data collection, you're just basically connecting the front and the back end as one end to any and everything you're doing. So part of it is that the ISP already has access to all kinds of other information about you. So when you're going online, you're just basically connecting all of your data together through your presence at where you're at. So the VPN is thought to disrupt that, okay, if the internet service provider can't see where I'm visiting, right, then they don't know what I'm doing. But the problem is that what you've had to do is create basically a series of proxies to go through in order to evade that. But if they have backdoor access to your electronics, as we're learning they do with everything, then the VPN was literally for nothing.
Right.
So it's kind of like with Pegasus, how, no one's ever hacked Signal. Signal to this date, everyone I know who's actually like really involved with intelligence or secret projects or any of that stuff, they love Signal. You can read Signal has yet to get hacked, right? But if you're using an iPhone or an Android and there's some kind of spyware in that thing, it doesn't matter how good Signal is. You're compromised by nature of the device. So that's why QUX having its own devices is so critical. We went above and beyond to make sure that there is no backdoor access to the devices, because there just is no backdoor. The only backdoor to QUX is QUX itself, if that makes sense.
Right. So you have, with QUX, instead of like a VPN, which is a virtual private network, QUX is a hardware private network.
Like, okay, so for instance, let's say I put some YouTube videos into the QUX network. For one, Google and YouTube can't pull any of that analytics out of the network, so they can't tell whether anyone's watching it or not. Now, let's say I'm watching YouTube videos on my QUX device at home. Now, my ISP, my internet service provider, is going to tell I'm at home on my device, right? And if I'm watching YouTube videos, they're going to see the ping data going from YouTube to my device. Okay, I can't hide that. But they're not going to see which YouTube videos I'm watching, because they're not going to be able to see that information. And they won't be able to see any of the other information or anything else going on inside QUX. So let's say the QUX CDN's up and running. They won't be able to see any of that, because they won't even know that that's going on, because that won't even be connected through the ISP. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it definitely addresses a lot of the problems there, and I think QUX has something and that's what they call the digital camouflage, right?
Yeah, because we're using components that exist already, right? Like from the internet service provider, they would look at a QUX TV box, and to them they'd think, okay, that just looks like a Roku or an Android phone. They wouldn't know what it was, because enough of the components in it are familiar that that's why we call it hardware camouflage. We're not using any kind of exotic electronics, so it's not going to stand out as, oh, this is one of those QUX devices, we need to throttle it.
Right. But what is exotic is the portal universe and essentially the operating system inside the device.
And that big tech can't pull data out of it. So anything happening inside of it, since there's no data logs, there's no data to pull, and they're not able to gain access into it anyway, because it doesn't work in the way traditional electronics do.
Right, like there's been people that have messed around with the boxes, and they've tried to like figure out ways to hack them or get inside of them, and then they just end up getting booted out. Like
one thing someone did is during the test program, they found sort of a vestigial update feature from the version of Android that we forked. So they thought that they could get some malware installed into the box, hoping that they could somehow get it into the network. And all that it did was cause the device to freeze itself and reboot, essentially kicking the malware and the hacker out. So they called to say that they thought that was interesting. I think one person broke one flashing it, but I mean...
Right.
He's upset because he can't get See, someone thought they could flash it and install some Google stuff in there, you know, but that didn't work either. So
yeah, I wouldn't advise it because you might just end up breaking it or making it so you get booted out. So, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of really unique, interesting things going on here with QUX. And I know personally, I'm really excited about the phones. I'm really excited about the TV boxes as well. And I'm excited for the marketplace to open up. That's something we're all looking forward to. I know I definitely want to put some of my stuff that I sell on my website, MillennialMillie.com. You know, my shirts and my hats, which I do have here, guys. Mind you, I have my shirts and things here that I still sell on my site, MillennialMillie.com. Just let you know. But I'm definitely going to be putting these for sale too on the QUX marketplace. And I already know of a lot of the current QUX box owners and portal creators that are going to be putting their items for sale as well in the stores. And it's really nice to just hear from a lot of the other, you know, independently minded, patriotic, small business owners that have gotten behind QUX and gotten QX boxes, and that they're going to be putting their stuff for sale in the marketplace.
If there's anything I could stress, if you have an online business or you want to have an online business and are thinking about it, you really need to get involved with QUX. And the reason being is when the store is launched and when all of the other payment processing features are finalized, I don't know how to stress enough, people are going to want to have their stores on here. So, and really that's kind of what we're going to want also, is to have a large online shopping presence, because that's ultimately what's going to pay the bills so that we can all have streaming capabilities and content without having to spend a bunch of money on other platforms or, you know.
I'm just looking forward to being able to not be canceled. You know, like I like the idea of not having to worry about being canceled.
Or told what you can and can't watch.
Told what I can and can't watch, what I can and can't say.
Or can and can't buy.
Or what I can and can't buy. And one of the other things I think is key is, you know, on some of these other big platforms, I know Amazon got sued for doing this, but other platforms, even like Etsy and others, word was that apparently they were selling private data of the from their site, essentially. And what happens is these other big companies, they buy it up, and then they know what small products are doing really well or going viral or making decent sales. And then that would kind of let the bigger companies know which products to knock off and then have made cheap in China. And then that would undercut a lot of these creative small business owners in their business endeavors. And that was one of the things that was brought to my attention actually from one of the test pilots for the QUX test pilot program. She was telling me about how, you know, she makes all these DIY, really cute, like home decoration items on Etsy, and how, you know, come to find out there was an issue with data being sold, and then other big companies like Amazon or Target or Walmart could then just have it cheaply made in China and knock off what she was doing, and her sales get knocked out at that point because they can just make it cheaper and really not quite as quality as what she was doing. And, you know, that's what they do. But see, with QUX and all that data being private and secure and not being sold and pretty much dumped, those small business owners aren't going to have to worry about that happening, because other competitors, like the big guys like Walmart, Amazon, etc., they aren't going to know what small, it might not even be small, but what the regular small business owners are doing and what products are selling well on their particular page. So they can't then try to go and undercut. You know, for them, it'll be like flying blind. Like, the big guys won't be able to just know which products are selling well. They'd have to follow trends and see what, you know, if somebody's in their neighborhood wearing your shoes that you're selling or something, right? So this is all key. These are key new moves that QUX has been making to protect America's small business owners, protect small local communities so that they can continue to have these small mom and pop businesses stay afloat in these local areas with the QUX local project that they have. And so get behind QUX, guys. If you want to help support American small business owners in the biggest way possible and ensure the future of American small business owners, get behind QUX because it is revolutionary. It is going to be a revolutionary support system for small business owners, and it will really be a revolutionary platform and system for free speech as well. It's a bastion of free speech, guys, and the ability for not only that, but for people to compete in the advertisement industry, in the marketplace industry, music industry, everything. The sky is the limit here. You won't be met with the glass windows or the glass ceilings that these other platforms have that essentially rig their algorithms to make it so certain people go viral or certain people are seen as popular and others aren't. And how do they do that? They do that with their bots and their algorithms, right? So, don't be a fool, don't do drugs, and don't do bots, right? No more bots. Go to QUX.tv and get on the new portal universe. Get inside the new QUX network, guys. It's where the future is going. All of these other social media ghettos are the past. Just as Matt Drudge has said, we need to get out of their social media ghettos. It's time for a new way. It's time for us to get onto our own new tech, which is better and will literally release the chains from humanity and let humanity flourish like never before. Okay, QUX is where it's at. QUX.tv. Go to shop and get your QUX TV box, guys. And you can also use my promo code to get a discount. So you can use promo code Millie. I know there's a lot of other people out there that have their promo codes and stuff. You could use promo code Millie, MILLIE, and that helps support me, but it also helps give you a $15 discount right then and there. So get your QUX box. In fact, get one for a friend or a family member as well. We need to grow this network, grow this community with real organic people, okay? Get out of the bot zone. Get off of the social credit score system. Get off the surveillance state. Get on to QUX. All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. I know we had some interesting topics. We talked a lot about Hunter Biden and his crack cocaine escapades with prostitutes. We talked about Elon Musk and how he pulled out of Twitter with his $44 billion deal he was offering over the bot issue, because all these social media platforms are just infested with bots. They utilize the bots for psychological warfare operations. They utilize them to fudge people's viewers, likes, make certain things seem popular, to engage in cyber harassment and bullying on people that have views that they want to quash out. So I'm sure some of you guys might have experienced that as well, where you've been attacked by bots in your comments on Twitter or some of these other social media platforms. It said that 30 to 40% of online traffic, guys, are bots on the open World Wide Web. So, you know, I don't know about you, but I don't love bots. So that's why I like QUX. And, you know, I was thinking about it lately. I'm like, Twitter's theme song should be that I love cats song, but I love bots, you know, because they sure as heck seem to love those bots on there. And that's why more and more people are jumping ship and going to other social media platforms. And here's the best part about QUX, by the way. QUX has an app store. So not only will QUX have the portal universe, which is awesome and has the marketplace and all the wonderful things it has on it, but it has an app store where you can get all kinds of other social media apps. So you're definitely going to want to get it. And I'm sure that some of these other social media, conservative-owned social media platforms are going to be banned in the future by Apple and Google Play. Some of them already have been. Some of them will be in the future, but they'll have a home on QUX in QX's App Store. So it's a good investment, guys. All right. Thanks for joining the show. We kind of went into a little overtime here, but I enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys again on Monday.